Oh, all right. Thank you, councillors. I declare the meeting open. Welcome to today's meeting of the Safer Speeds Hearing Subcommittee. Please note this meeting is being live streamed, and note the physical distancing required after alert level 2, which is 1 metre. So if you can reach out and touch anybody, you're too close. And we're going to do the karakia. So, etu motu karakia. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā tara tara ki tai. E hi ake ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei Māori ora. Welcome everyone and welcome to councillors who are joining us on Zoom. Please let me or the Democracy Advisor know if you'll be leaving the meeting. I'm hoping that we will not be too long, and so hopefully that won't be an issue. We do have one apology today from the Mayor Foster, so I'm going to move the motion that we accept the apology from Mayor Foster. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Foon. I'll put the motion which has been moved and seconded. If you're in the room, you can use your buttons. If you're on Zoom, it's easier for staff if you verbalise or give them a thumbs up so they can see which way you're voting on this. So please vote on accepting the apology. Carried. That's carried. Thank you, everyone. I call on members to declare any conflicts of interest. I don't see any. There are no items not on the agenda. Moving on to confirmation of the minutes. I move the motion that the Safer Speeds Hearing Subcommittee approve the minutes of the previous meeting on 5th of August, having been circulated, and that they be taken as read and confirmed an accurate record of that meeting. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Young. I now put the motion which has been moved and seconded. Those in favour, please vote 1 or give us a thumbs up or a good wave. And I declare that motion carried. Thank you, everyone. There were no requests for public participation today, so we're going to move straight on to general business. General business today is accepting the report on the Karori and Marsden Village 30k speed limit proposal. So I'm going to move the motion being the officer's amended recommendations. So if we can just scroll down, you can see that we've had a couple of amendments added here, which are just noting the work that staff are going to do looking at some other safety improvements in the area that came up during the consultation. So we had a few people who came in during the hearings who raised safety concerns about other things. And this is just to note that officers are working on investigating those things. Otherwise, the recommendations are as they came from the staff. Councillor Calvert. Okay, thank you. It's not an intersection of Beauchamp and Campbell Street with Karori Road. Okay. Thank you. Absolutely local knowledge. Thank you very much. Beecham, yes.
We couldn't hear the question.
Oh, sorry, yeah, so that was, Councillor Calvert was just letting us know that the intersection of Beecham and Campbell Street, they don't intersect with each other, they both are separate intersections, so it's 2 intersections that intersect with Karori Road. So we were just getting the plural of intersection in there.
And perhaps just clarify with Karori Road so they know which intersection, yeah.
Thank you. So thank you, that's valuable local knowledge. All right, so I'll just speak very, very briefly to the recommendations. We are being asked to recommend to the Strategy and Policy Committee that it does make the changes for speed limits to reduce the speed limit to 30k in both the Karori shopping area and the Marsden Village shopping area. So this paper, if we vote for it today, will then go up to SPC for a further debate with the whole of Council Committee. when we went out for the submissions, we had quite a few submissions, 253 submissions, and many of them were in favour of these. So more than 2/3 were in favour of both of these changes. And then when we had people come in and speak to us on submissions, everyone spoke in favour of those submissions. In fact, the main point that we had from people was people asking us to extend the area that the 30K applied to, and possibly asking us to join up these two areas. Now, staff have noted in the paper that we can't actually extend the speed limit area beyond the area of the consultation. So we can't do more than we've consulted on. We could choose to do less than we've consulted on. So staff have addressed that there's a couple of areas that they're going to be looking at around school zones and other things that will mean they'll come back to this area and look at those requests in future. That's really all I wanted to say about that. So can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Foon. Would you like to speak?
I would like to thank everyone who did submit, that it is really important that we have a good understanding of the challenges of speed in the area, and it certainly gave us a really good snapshot of how different forms of moving around are trying to navigate this very highly congested and highly used area. So mainly to thank, and yes, I do support that. Just given the evidence and from what we heard, that I will be supporting these recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Foon. Is there any further debate? Councillor Calvert.
You might be able to address this in your right of reply rather than ask officers, but I'm just a little bit concerned about the budget to do this. I appreciate that it's very easy to put up signs at a low cost, but there does need to be an allowance for something to delineate from the 50K to the 30K. So I hope officers will address that in the paper to the strategy and policy meeting, because I mean, it's important being supportive, but we've got to make sure that there is the budget to do it reasonably well, and that's the problem that I've noticed in other parts of the city, in the suburban areas where we put in 30Ks, but sometimes it's nothing other than a red line and a sign. There's nothing that clear, and people don't realise. So yeah, it's about education as opposed to for strict enforcement. So yeah.
Thank you. Did I have anybody on Zoom? I don't actually have a good eye on Zoom at the moment. Is there anyone on Zoom who would like to speak? Councillor Pennant.
Thank you, Councillor Condi. I'd just like to thank the submitters for their views and the officers, and obviously I will be supporting this. I believe in lower speed limits, but I guess I'd just comment that I have always had a problem with just doing these quite small areas, and the fact that there is a gap is a little bit tricky. So I do agree with the submitters there. Would like, as with other parts of the city, to go back and look at suburb-wide places. If we're serious about climate change and children and disabled people, then I think these are things that need to happen. I acknowledge that there is some disquiet, but given people are nearly at 30K anyway, this is just really about making sure it stays that way and sets a norm around how people should behave in the area. Thanks again to everyone. And Councillor Condi, sorry, thank you for your leadership, as always, like on the parking policy tomorrow. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Do I have any further debate? Councillor Rush.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was very persuaded when we listened to oral submitters that this was a good idea, but looking at the balance of the written submissions, I was very surprised to find quite a significant minority were not in support of this. That's causing me to have another think, and I will do so in a manner that will allow me to perhaps give further thought when this comes before SPC.
Thanks, Councillor. Any further debate? Councillor Young's just asking to see the map for those on Zoom. Yes. So it goes into 30 and then it goes back to 50 and then it goes back into 30 as you get to the next shopping centre. Any further debate? Okay, there being none, I'll move quickly to right of reply. Councillor Calvert, would you like to hear from officers on your question before we put the motion, or are you happy to leave it for next time? Okay, so I think we can, for next time when the paper comes to SPC, Councillor Calvert said she's happy to see what the budget is for doing this, and I guess what the plan is for the kind of signage and transition. What are the actual changes going to look like on the street, so that we can have that in front of us when it comes to SPC. And I see Mike nodding at me for those who aren't in the room, so thank you, Mike. We'll look forward to seeing that. All of that being said, thank you, Councillor Rush, for it sounds like you're going to support it at this stage and give yourself a bit more time to think before we get to the SPC, which would be useful. I think you're always going to hear from parts of the community who feel like there is no problem because they don't see the problem, and so they come back to us and say, there's no problem, why are you changing things? Just leave it like it is, it's fine. And I think that's what we really heard from the people who came to speak to us was those are the people who have experienced the problems and the challenges that are there, and they can see the benefits of this proposal. So I think, I understand that there are a few people in the community who are opposed to this, but it seemed to me by looking at the balance of the submissions that it was mostly people who didn't actually see the problem. And that's always the case. Not everyone's going to experience the same problems across our city. So I'm still looking to support this and take it forward, because I think for those people who are experiencing the challenges around this area, this will make a big difference for them, and it will make it much safer for the people who are using the intersection. So, with no further ado, I will put the motion, which has been moved and seconded. Please vote accordingly. And that has been carried unanimously. All right, thank you everyone. You have all lived up to my expectations that we would have a lovely straight up and down meeting today, so thank you for that. We're coming to the conclusion of the meeting, so I'm going to finish with the karakia before I declare the meeting closed. Etu, please. Unuhia, 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 ki te uru tapu nui. Kia wātea, kia mama, te ngākau, te tinana, te wairua, I te ara takatū. Koe rā e rongo, whakāria ake ki runga. Kia wātea, ai rā, kua wātea. Thank you everyone, I declare the meeting closed.